In September 1958, Fresno, California residents opened their mailboxes to find a plastic card inside. Nobody had ordered it. Bank of America had mailed 60,000 active credit cards to roughly half the city's households. No credit checks, no applications, just plastic, a spending limit, and a letter saying, "This is our gift to you." History recorded this as the Fresno Drop, one of the most consequential social engineering experiments in modern financial history. The results were immediate chaos. With no credit checks, the cards landed with the unemployed, the already indebted, and people with no business receiving credit. Fraud exploded within days. Cards were stolen from mailboxes before owners knew they had arrived. Merchants reported hundreds of fraudulent transactions daily. The bank lost tens of millions in the first year alone. Internal reports called it a complete failure. But the bank did not retreat. Buried inside the failure were numbers telling a different story. People who defaulted, who could not pay, were generating losses. Yes. But people who paid some, not all, carrying a balance month to month, were generating 3 times the projected revenue. These were not people using credit as a tool. These were people consuming credit as a product, buying things with plastic today and deferring the real cost to a future they kept pushing further away. 1 year later, Bank of America launched a statewide rollout across California. Within 5 years, Bank AmeriCard, later Visa, spread across the United States. Within a decade, MasterCard, American Express, and Discover entered the arena. The race to capture cardholders began. The winner was not determined by lowest interest rates, transparency, or ethical terms. The winner was whoever made the card easiest to get, the limit most generous, and the psychology of spend now, think later, most seamless. Economists called the mechanism revolving credit. That name is not accidental. It revolves, it does not stop. You pay, you spend, you pay, you spend. The system was built on this cycle. A customer whose balance reaches zero is the worst outcome for the industry, because zero balance means zero interest, and zero interest means zero revenue. From 1958 onward, the credit card industry's greatest competitor has never been illness, regulation, or market competition. Its greatest competitor has always been the customer paying their balance in full. Today, in 2026, total revolving credit card debt in the United States stands at $1,252 billion. According to the Federal Reserve Bank of New York's most recent report, this is the highest balance since tracking began in 1999. The 68-year compounding result of a system born inside one experiment in a mid-sized California city. An experiment called a failure, but whose real lesson was something else entirely. In 2021, MIT Sloan professor Drazen Prelek placed research participants inside an fMRI machine, gave them cash or credit card options for real purchases at real prices, and measured brain activity in real time. The results overturned a decade of assumptions about how credit cards work inside the human mind. When participants paid by card, the striatum, the brain's reward center, showed powerful activation. The same region activated by cocaine and amphetamines. Pulling out your card and buying something is not simply a transaction. Your brain receives a reward signal. Spending itself has become a form of neurological reward. The dominant theory before this was different. Researchers assumed cards worked by reducing the pain of paying, that plastic made spending less painful by removing the sensation of money leaving your possession. This was called release the brakes. Cash activates pain-adjacent brain regions that slow you down and limit purchases, so removing the pain increases spending. Prelek's data revealed something more precise. Cards were not simply releasing the brakes. They were pressing the accelerator, increasing motivation to spend rather than removing resistance. Researchers called this the step on the gas model. The consequences are significant. Paying with cash, your brain registers the transaction as a loss. You see the bills, count them, hand them over, and watch your wallet become lighter. The insula, the region involved in physical pain, activates. Neuroimaging confirms the brain treats cash spending as close to physical injury, creating a natural brake on consumption. With a card, this mechanism is bypassed, and the reward circuit switches on instead. The behavioral data is consistent across dozens of studies. People spend 12 to 18% more on average using a card versus cash. In one widely cited study, participants were willing to pay 113% more for the same product by card. The average cash transaction in the U.S. is $22. The average card transaction, $57. That gap is the output of a neurological system mapped and built into product design. The trajectory of payment technology makes this sharper. Traditional cards reduce payment pain compared to cash. Contactless cards reduce it further. Mobile wallets reduce it further still. A 2024 Dutch study found contactless caused the least pain of any card method, and those users rated it least helpful for controlling spending. Each advancement in payment technology follows the same principle. Widen the distance between spending and financial reckoning. Increase abstraction, decrease friction. Every reduction in friction means higher volumes, balances, and revenue for institutions behind your card. The plastic card Fresno, residents found in 1958, has been refined into something that works with your neurological architecture, a different financial product than most believe they hold. Look at your credit card statement. Two numbers matter: the full balance and the minimum payment. If the balance is $5,000, the minimum might be $125. Which number does your brain respond to? The University of Warwick answered this in the Journal of Marketing Research. Analyzing real transactions, they found that when minimum payment information is prominently displayed, cardholders adjust their payments toward that minimum, even when they can afford much more. This is anchoring bias, one of the most robust findings in behavioral science. The brain overweights the first numerical reference it encounters and uses it as the baseline for decisions. The minimum payment is typically boxed and bolded before the full balance, so the eye sees it first. The question is no longer how much of this debt should I eliminate today, but quietly becomes, can I afford $125 this month? That shift from elimination thinking to affordability thinking is the core mechanism that keeps the average American cardholder in debt for over 4 years on a single revolving balance. The researchers quantified the cost. Minimum payment information, as designed, causes cardholders to pay roughly 8% more total interest over the lifetime of their debt, applied across 111 million Americans carrying balances on over $1 trillion of debt. That represents billions transferred annually from households to financial institutions, not through fraud, but through the placement of one number on a monthly document. Separate research tested removing minimum payment information entirely. Groups with no anchor displayed higher voluntary payments, paid down balances faster, and reported lower financial stress. The minimum payment does not protect the consumer. It protects the industry's interest revenue. Now look at the math. Take a $7,000 balance at 21% annual interest. The current average APR in the U.S. as of Q1 2026, paying the standard declining minimum. Each month takes over 17 years to reach zero. The total paid exceeds $14,000, more than double the original debt. You borrowed $7,000, repaid $14,000. The extra $7,000 went entirely to interest, producing nothing, simply the cost of time. The psychological dimension runs deeper still. Making the minimum payment releases a small dopamine signal, the experience of completing an obligation. Paying your bill feels nearly identical, whether you paid 100, 25, or 5,000. The relief is the same, but the financial reality differs entirely. In 2026, more than 30 million Americans can only afford minimum payments each month, not reducing principal, just paying almost entirely interest. The balance moves almost imperceptibly, yet the system says you are being responsible. The treadmill keeps moving, and the exit never gets closer. Free travel miles, free hotel nights, 2% cash back, points, rewards. These words are the advertising language of the credit card industry, communicating one message: spend, and you will gain. The mechanics of how this system is funded show gain means something different depending on where you stand inside it. Harvard Business School researchers mapped this precisely. Interchange fees, the fees merchants pay to card networks, transfer approximately $30 billion annually from cash and debit users to rewards card users. You spend $50 at a grocery store with a rewards card. The store pays roughly 2.3% to the processor and bank, called the interchange, and covers this by embedding it into retail prices. So every customer, regardless of payment method, implicitly pays a fraction of that fee through slightly elevated prices. Rewards cardholders get a percentage of their spending back as cash back, points or miles. Cash-paying customers get nothing back, having subsidized the infrastructure without its benefits. This produces a cross-subsidy of $9.2 billion per year, flowing from households earning less than $150,000 annually to higher-income households more likely to hold premium rewards cards. Premium rewards cards with the highest cashback rates and travel benefits typically require strong credit scores, higher spending thresholds, and sometimes annual fees, attracting higher-income consumers who meet those requirements and spend at volumes that make rewards meaningful. Lower-income consumers more often use cash, debit cards, or non-rewards cards. The interchange infrastructure disproportionately benefits those who need it least, funded by those who receive nothing. A second transfer happens inside the user population itself. Transactors pay their full balance every month, using the card for convenience but never carrying debt forward. Revolvers carry a balance, rolling the remainder forward, accruing interest at 21 to 24% annually. The rewards program was designed to attract transactors, who appeared to get something for nothing. In a narrow sense, they do, extracting rewards while paying zero interest. But the funding comes mostly from interest revenue generated by revolvers, not interchange fees alone. The sophisticated user extracting maximum rewards is, in part, subsidized by the financially stressed user who cannot pay their full balance. This is not incidental. The business model depends on having both groups simultaneously. A visible population of satisfied transactors who validate the product, and a larger invisible population of revolvers, whose interest payments fund the reward structure. The rewards program is a recruitment tool funded by the population, generating the most revenue, every point of cashback, calculated against projected interest revenue from the balance-carrying population. Behavioral economics defines present bias as the tendency to overweight immediate rewards relative to future consequences, even when the future outcome is clearly worse. The brain values $1 today more than $2 in 10 years, even when the math says 2 is superior. The credit card product is built on this tendency at every level of its design. You purchase something today. The pleasure arrives immediately. The cost is deferred. 30 days pass before a statement arrives. Then it presents the minimum payment option, deferring the reckoning further. Economists Richard Thaler and Shlomo Benartzi documented this. Humans accept worse outcomes in exchange for delaying their arrival. Layered on top is the future self-illusion. Studies find people see their future selves as meaningfully different from current selves, more disciplined, organized, higher earning, more financially stable. When a spending decision is made today, the brain assigns the consequence to a future version of itself that feels like a different, more capable person who will handle it. But the future arrives, and that person is the same person, still facing the same trade-offs, still making the minimum payment. Researchers showed participants computer-generated images of their aged future selves during financial decisions. Those who could see their future selves made more conservative decisions, saved more for retirement, and resisted impulsive spending. The credit card industry has no interest in showing you your future self. It is investing in the opposite direction. Consider the credit limit. The industry has expanded limits even as delinquency rates rose through 2025 into 2026. The stated rationale is risk-adjusted revenue optimization. Higher spending volumes offset higher charge-off costs. But the effect of a high limit is independently significant. Research documents the credit limit heuristic, the tendency of cardholders to unconsciously interpret available credit as a measure of financial safety rather than a ceiling on liability. A high limit signals to the brain there is abundant resource here. Spend. You are not in danger. The average credit limit per cardholder in the U.S. reached $30,940 in 2026. Cardholders with higher limits spend more at the same income because the brain reads the limit as resource, not debt. The interaction of present bias and the credit limit creates a compounding dynamic. A high limit makes large purchases feel accessible. Present bias makes the future cost feel abstract. Minimum payment design reduces the urgency of repayment. The reward system makes spending feel productive. Each mechanism reinforces the others, producing a cardholder spending freely, paying minimally, believing they are managing finances responsibly, and drifting deeper into a balance growing faster than they are paying it down. This is an engineered behavioral environment producing predictable outcomes at scale. In 2026, 61% of Americans who carry credit card debt have been carrying it for at least 1 year, up from 53% in late 2024, an 8-point increase in roughly 12 months. These are not people who made a single impulsive purchase and are working it down. For them, debt has become a permanent feature of their financial landscape, a structural condition rather than a temporary problem. The more precise question is what happens when someone tries to exit, and why does the exit so often fail? The first mechanism is the credit scoring system. The credit score follows you everywhere. Rental applications, mortgage approvals, employment checks, phone contracts. The system contains a paradox rarely discussed. Making minimum payments on time, even while carrying a 21% balance for years, improves and maintains your score. The algorithm reads consistent minimum payment as creditworthiness. Technically accurate, but you are also a profitable revenue source for the issuer, and the system can reward remaining in debt as financial responsibility. The second mechanism is the balance transfer trap. You move existing debt to a new card offering 0% promotional APR for 12 or 18 months, a rational maneuver, and for a disciplined minority it works. But the relief from a zero-interest environment reduces the urgency of repayment. The mental pressure lifts. The crisis feeling dissipates. Research shows that in its absence, old spending behaviors return quickly. When the promotional period expires, the balance is often still substantial. The new rate kicks in and the cycle resumes. The third mechanism is the debt consolidation illusion. A personal loan at 15% looks like an improvement over a card at 21. Mathematically true in isolation. But studies tracking consolidation over 2 to 3 years show many begin reaccumulating balances on the cards they paid off. The cards still exist, the limit is restored, the triggers that produced the debt remain. Many carry both the loan and a rebuilt balance, worse than before. Behavioral economists call this treating the symptom instead of the cause. The debt balance is a symptom. The behaviors that produced it are the cause. Products that move the symptom without changing the cause leave the system intact. The fourth, most subtle mechanism is psychological normalcy. A 2026 survey found 42% of cardholders believe they will carry credit card debt for life. Not resignation in a moment of crisis, but a stable belief held by nearly half this population. The debt has been normalized, incorporated into how people model their permanent financial condition. Once a condition feels permanent, the urgency to exit diminishes. The monthly minimum payment becomes a fixed cost, like rent rather than a problem to solve. This normalization is the industry's most powerful retention tool, requiring no active effort. It self-perpetuates. The Federal Reserve Bank of New York's Q1 2026 report places total American credit card debt at $1,252 billion, down slightly from the record $1,277 billion in Q4 2025, a seasonal pattern as consumers pay down holiday spending. Balances increased by $482 billion since Q1 2021, a 63% increase in 5 years. These numbers are not a signal of failure. They are the output of a system operating exactly as designed. Of roughly 216 million American adults holding credit cards, about 111 million carry a revolving balance month to month. Of that group, more than 27 million can only afford the minimum payment, paying almost entirely interest, flowing directly to the issuing bank as revenue. The balance moves, but barely. Americans paid an estimated $181 billion in credit card interest in 2025. In 2026, researchers calculated Americans accrue $368 million in interest every day before a single dollar of principal is reduced. Every second, cardholders collectively pay approximately $4,300 in interest, producing nothing. The pure cost of carrying a balanced compound interest is expanding. The 25 to 34 age group carries the highest delinquency rate in 2026 at 7.8%, a cohort managing student loans, high rents, stagnant wages, and balances from the inflationary period of 2022 through 2024. The 90-plus day delinquency rate reached levels in 2025 not seen since the 2008 crisis. Evidence the system generates. Debt loads a growing segment cannot service even at minimum payment. The industry's response has been to expand credit limits further. Revenue from the performing population more than compensates for charge-offs from defaulters. The defaulter is a loss. The population carrying balances indefinitely is a durable, compounding revenue source. The Fresno drop of 1958 was called a failure because 60,000 unsolicited cards produced fraud, defaults, and millions in losses. But the insight it generated, that a subset would carry balances indefinitely and generate far more revenue than they cost, became the organizing principle of an industry. Processing more than 5 trillion annually and collecting nearly $200 billion in fee and interest revenue. The anchoring effect in minimum payment design, the reward loop from the card queue, pain of paying reduction in payment tech, the credit limit heuristic turning debt into safety, present bias amplified by deferred payment, the rewards program funded by revolvers, and the normalization of long-term carrying, non-accidents, each tested and embedded by teams who understood financial decisions better than consumers. $1,252 billion is not residue of poor decisions. It is engineered output.